Hello, thanks for tuning in. This is the second call that I'm doing from the episode of The Line that went out on the 13th of December 2023. I've already done the pre-sup, the Jared, which I will have uploaded already by the time you see this. And we've got Andrew calling in. I've listened to the call already, and he called in essentially arguing that um, people are not animals, so obviously they spent quite a lot of time on that. And we're jumping into the call about halfway through because some amusing things occurred. And anyway, let's have a listen to it.
And you were like, I watched you eat vanilla ice cream yesterday. No, you watched me eat what science and people who speak English call vanilla ice cream. But what I'm referring to is that turd in the cat box, and I don't like that. Do you realize how silly this is for you to use esoteric terms and definitions and then call in to deny reality? We are animals. You're an animal, Andrew. You're an animal according to science. You're an animal under every definition that matters. And your personal definitions that make appeals to things are things that you cannot demonstrate. You don't have any evidentiary warrant to think they're true, and are a complete waste of everyone's time until such time as you can provide evidence for it.
Yeah, the caller had asked Matt, are you, what is it? I think he asked him, are you right-handed or left-handed? I think Matt said, oh, I'm right-handed. And he said, how do you know that? And Matt said, well, definitionally, I use my right hand the majority of the time, and therefore I'm right-handed. And Andrew was trying to argue that his knowledge or belief in God is in any way comparable, that he's got the same quality of evidence for the existence of a God that Matt has for being right-handed, which Matt obviously critiqued.
Hey, Andrew.
Andrew,
Are you familiar with the term?
I'll take you to a Buddhist temple with me, and I'll show you.
I don't need you to take me anywhere. Do you think I've not been to a fucking Buddhist temple? What's going to happen? What's going to happen, Andrew, when you take me to a Buddhist temple?
If we take
I visited three in February.
Take you to one that works for you, your heart's going to get open to the divine, and you're going to be stopping so offended by religion.
Andrew, I'm not offended by religion. I'm offended by stupidity and irrationality. I'm offended by the notion that people think that their fantasies are on a par with reality. I'm offended by the notion that you think that the problem with me is I just haven't gone to the right fucking Buddhist temple. And that when I go to the right Buddhist temple with you, my heart's going to open up. Do you know how delusional you sound right now?
Well, I've had Christians saying the same to me about church. You know, Stuart, go to a church, sing the hymns, open your heart to Jesus, and it will all just happen. Well, you know something? It's near Christmas, and I've been to some concerts recently. I've been to a Christian service. I've sung hymns. I sang, "O Come All Ye Faithful." I felt amazing while I was singing it, but I didn't come out a Christian. You know, I just enjoy singing. So I don't think there's a church in the world or a Buddhist temple in the world that is going to convince me that there is basically anything beyond this reality that we immediately perceive.
He's saying something even worse than that. He's saying, Matt, you have to abandon your rationality and your reason and just accept. And you just need the right combination of feelings and emotions to do that. He's basically saying just abandon all your logic.
Yeah. What are you going to do when you take me to this Buddhist temple? Drug me up and hit me over the head with a shovel until I'm fucking, just absolutely incapable of thinking reasonably? What demonstrable, objectively...
That's not what happened.
It's not a fucking straw man. Don't pretend like you know what a logical fallacy is, Andrew, because you don't. What's going to happen to me when I go to a Buddhist temple with you? What objectively verifiable evidence is going to be presented to me in a Buddhist temple that will change me?
No, what's going to happen is you'll have an experience and you're going to get out of your scientific box and you're going to see there's more to reality.
What's going to happen to him in a Buddhist temple? I mean, unless he gets into a lotus position and starts meditating and has some kind of satori, there's nothing, and that's probably fairly unlikely. And even if that did happen, how is Matt going to respond to that? He's probably going to say, well, it was an amazing experience, which I can't explain.
Than just science and
No.
what we can see.
Andrew,
And you're gonna experience it.
Andrew, is it possible for someone to have an experience that is ultimately pointing them in a direction that isn't true? Yes.
Yes. I would
Yes.
say yes.
And so why on earth would any experience I ever had in a Buddhist temple make me abandon reason and abandon a need for evidence? What experience could I possibly ever have that would make me throw out the single most reliable epistemology so that I could look as delusional as you do right now?
No, you're delusional. I didn't throw out science. I've accepted your science. You're the delusional one
you
who's
don't.
not accepting another form of knowledge.
Yes, I'm accepting a form of knowledge that you can't demonstrate is true, and that you say I need to have an experience and set aside my logical scientific mind. Don't pretend like you accept science when 30 seconds before you uttered that, you said I needed to get out of my scientific mind.
A lot of so-called, shall we say, spiritual people will say exactly that thing. They will say that you need to try and tap into another faculty, something which is not science, something which is not materialism. You need to use intuition. You need to use like a kind of sixth sense. So what he's saying is not really unusual at all, but of course is wrong.
So, Andrew, let me ask you this. Do you know what epistemology is? How we come to our knowledge, that process? You might hang up.
How we come to know
Okay.
anything. How we come to know anything.
Okay. No. Hold on. Focus on my
Like,
question.
how do I know
right.
if someone loves me?
Andrew,
You
focus
can't
on my
just say,
question,
"Oh,
please.
science."
Andrew, focus on my question here, okay? This is the last thing I'll ask you. Why are you employing one type of epistemology for something you really like and you have emotions attached to, but you're applying a different epistemology to everything else in life? Because if I brought 10 people to your front door and I said, hey, each one of these guys wants to give you $10 million. You just have to give them your social security number, your mother's maiden name, a copy of your driver's license, and the deed to your house. Is the process you would use to evaluate that claim the same as the process you're using to evaluate your God and what it offers you?
No, they're
Would you go
different,
off of
they're
feelings and
different
emotions?
ways of verification.
There's different ways of verification, but there's also a different process you go through as you look at the claim, evaluate the evidence, determine whether that evidence is good or not, and whether they actually.
Well, what Eric is saying, of course, is completely sound. But for people that want to, how shall we say, for people who are not prepared to accept that the kind of epistemology that a sound, rational, reasonable assessment of evidence is not applicable to what they want to believe in other words, an afterlife, a God, enlightenment, or whatever, then they will have two different methods for determining the truth of certain propositions. So what Eric is asking is quite reasonable, but for people that want to believe in a God, obviously traditional scientific and rational methods are not going to be of much use, only to rule those things out, and they want to rule them in. So they need intuition, they need a sixth sense, they need a hunch, or the feeling tingling down the back, or whatever.
You support the claims, whether the arguments are valid and sound. There are two different processes here. The process, and I even say this without even asking you, I would say that the process you use to evaluate whether those guys promising $10 million, you're using a much more robust and less problematic, more airtight process to evaluate that than you are when you come to religion.
Okay, good one, Eric. Be interested to see how he justifies it.
You're saying it has to be feelings and emotions and experiences, and you can just try multiple temples until you finally hit one that just gives you the right feeling before you accept. I could turn that around and say, I'll just keep on presenting you guys with these claims. They want to give you the money, but they want all this personal information, and you're just going to hit one that's just going to feel right. Like this process doesn't work in the real world. Why are you applying it to religion? And the ultimate question about things: shouldn't we be more robust, more disciplined when we come to evaluating those questions, not less?
We should be disciplined in the manner that it requires. I think that's a false equivalency, and Matt's getting emotional. He's getting
false equivalency. You see, he really does want to have two different spheres, and one epistemology for everyday sort of mundane things in the material world, and then he wants another epistemology for his esoteric beliefs. It reminds me, in fact, that Eric said that shouldn't your epistemology be even more robust for these fantastic claims? It reminds me of what William Lane Craig said, that if what you want to believe in offers you so much reward, like in the case of Christianity, eternal life, etc., if it's such an attractive belief, that you should not higher the bar, you should not put the bar up. You should, in fact, reduce it down so that you can have the joy and the comfort of that belief and all the promised rewards, or at least the hope of those rewards to come. So, I can certainly see, he's saying it's a false equivalency. No, he's going to lower the bar so that he can enjoy that belief.
Offended that I'm saying science is not all there is. So he's the emotional.
Yeah, science isn't all there is. There are other faculties, intuition, etc. None of them are reliable, of course. None of them are remotely reliable, but they give him what he wants.
Not me.
All right, so I'm going to mute you to pretend that after I sat here all this time, that I got emotional and offended, when the reality is that we have hand-walked you through fallacy after fallacy after bad argument, and now I'm frustrated, not because you have some truth, but because you don't seem to care about the truth, don't seem to care about any pathway to truth. And now, rather than presenting any argument or evidence about a God, you're just suggesting that I've gotten offended and emotional. What offends me is that you don't give a shit about a pathway to truth. You admit that religion isn't going to lead you to truth. Faith isn't a pathway to truth. Your epistemology is admittedly broken, and yet you are sitting here telling us that we need to get rid of the most reliable epistemological foundation that we have, and instead rely on your admittedly broken.
Yeah, because if you use that epistemological foundation that Matt's talking about, then you have got to rule out everything supernatural. You've got to rule out all gods. You've got to rule out all religion, any hope of an afterlife. It's all gone. And that, of course, for some people is a big problem, because they want to believe in those things. So the scientific method, rationality, etc., is of no use whatsoever.
Epistemology in order to come to some truth. I am frustrated and offended, not because you have a truth, but because you don't seem to care about any pathway to truth. So once again, stop pretending that you have some high ground here and answer the question at hand, which is, do you have any objectively verifiable evidence for any of your religious beliefs? Do you?
I've tried to give several, so I can't give any.
Goodbye. And this is your 33rd and final call. Don't
call again. Yep. Okay. I don't know about Andrew. I can't remember hearing him, but Matt seems to think he's called 33 times. But I can't imagine that he would have said anything new, substantially new in the most recent call. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's about it. And yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Why are theists using these non-scientific, non-rational methods to arrive at belief in the existence of God, or, obviously in his case, he's talking about Buddhism, so sort of esoteric beliefs about, meditation, enlightenment, etc. Because with science and with true rational and logical methods, it seems that none of those beliefs are actually applicable. None of them are justifiable. And if you want to have a so-called spiritual life, then you will need an alternative epistemology, one that isn't reliable. Okay, that's all for now. Goodbye.